Well, just to tell everybody where we are with the problems of the Mandelay and QX world, we have found even more disturbing results that their systems are not working and not functioning and not doing the trivector, meaning that their software is deceptive. Now, of course, to reiterate and just put it in better perspective, Mandelay's been doing this for a long time, for over 5 years. And we struggled through Hungarian courts with the contract and everything, and basically just couldn't get anywhere. All of a sudden now QX World has started it again, and QX World is selling a system that doesn't have the trivector in it. So now it's another problem. Well, I couldn't really do too much about it until I could finish a corrective action software, meaning that since their software is deceptive, and I can prove that it is deceptive, and I have a contract establishing me as the science officer for both companies, now that I have a corrective action software, it's a mandated software. In others, everybody who has a QX World system and everybody who has a Mandelay system, this is a mandated software that they need to get to correct the functions of the deception of the trivector. In other words, the trivector is in our new corrective action software. And we call it the CAS, Corrective Action Software. And it is mandated. So now that we are in the final processes of testing it, we've tested it on skios and it works, and we're developing it for other different things. I'm about to blow the whistle on the Mandelay and QX World people and all of the list of accomplices. Now, Penny, you still haven't sent me that letter with your signature on it. So you're on the list of accomplices. You could just send me that letter. We're making a list of people who are on the whistleblower side, and that list is growing. So there's going to be more and more people on the whistleblower side. I will be blowing the whistle as soon as we really turn the corner on the corrective action software, which would be in the next couple of weeks. I have a birthday coming up. June 19th is my birthday. It's a national holiday, not because it's my birthday. It's Freedom Day, and that's not because of my birthday, but still, uh, uh, it's a special day for me, and I'm about to turn 73. So I've got other things that I'm doing. I will be blowing the whistle here pretty soon. I'm trying to give all these other people a last chance. I just can't understand why none of them are coming on here and talking. I opened up this forum specifically to give Mandelay and QX World a chance to retort. I brought up a list of 7 crimes. I'm not going to reiterate all those crimes right now, unless somebody wants me to, but that's not so important. But yet they don't retort to this. They're not understanding the gravity of this situation. The gravity of this situation is I will do the whistleblower, and I need to do this because this makes me, their science officer, immune from any prosecution. This is the only way I can effectively protect my family, my friends, my wife, my son. It's the only way I can protect us, and you will be protected. So, Penny, if you join in on the whistleblower, you can be protected from prosecution. If not, if I don't get your signature on the paper, QX World still has you as one of their brokers, so you're on the list of accomplices. When I do the whistleblower, we'll be turning this over to the FBI, the FDA, the Department of Justice, Interpol, at least 10 different agencies in Europe and in England, that the Mandelay and QX World are committing 7 acts of criminality. 7 different crimes they're doing. Stealing stealing my copyright. That is a crime. That's the least of these crimes. The most important of these crimes is they've been selling systems that put stimulation into the head that in Europe and in America is class 2 or class 3, and they don't have a class 2 or class 3. I tried to work with them. This is a medical device. Arrest warrants will be issued. This is a group of conspirators. All of these people that are on the list of accomplices have been conspiring, knowing that they're breaking the law, knowing that they're selling a fraudulent medical device that is deceptive to people for, we estimate, over $60 million that they've made. That's just an estimate. The Department of Justice and in Europe and in England, this is a major criminal conspiracy. They're not going to turn their back on this. They're going to go after every accomplice who will then be arrested. Given their day in court, I will be compelled, as the whistleblower, to testify and prove their crimes, which I can. They don't even retort. They're not coming on here to even retort about these crimes. They're still, this is the 3rd week I've been doing this, and they're still not coming here to even retort.
All the modifications and alterations to the program happened without Desiree's knowledge or approval. So that's already very, very bad.
So anyway, this whole thing, I'm giving them a chance to come. I put these things on YouTube and they're not. Why are they not retorting? Because they know they're guilty of crimes. If somebody accused your company of 7 serious crimes, your lawyers would be responding about that within a week. Within 2 weeks, you wouldn't let this go. This is serious. Anyway, that's what's happening. So what I wanted to talk about today, because I was talking to some people yesterday in Italy, and it brought a lot of different things to mind that maybe some of you people don't know. This whole system starts with me, and having worked as an electrical engineer on the Apollo project and done all this, I was able to understand the trivector and how things work in a 3-dimensional space, and how I can detect coffee with shape receptors inside my tongue. These shape receptors operate in at least a 3-dimensional way, if not more dimensions. The 3 vectors. And I started to see that the shape receptors and how we detect shapes, etc., this is so important, our smell and our taste. Now, there was work being done in voltammetry, which is the electrical science of electrochemistry. We take the coffee, and with a couple of electrodes in a sophisticated test, we can measure the energy field, the shape, the electronic shape. I say electronic shape because you have to understand, inside this coffee, all these different molecules and atoms that are in here. In 5th grade, we're taught that the body and the coffee are made of atoms. Atoms have protons and neutrons in the center, and they have electrons going on the outside. The electrons never touch and they repel. So all of the atoms inside the coffee cannot touch each other. The atoms inside my body cannot touch. I can't touch the chair I'm sitting in. There's electromagnetic forces, there's fields, electromagnetic fields that repel. So when I slap my hands, I don't touch, the hands don't touch. The electromagnetic fields of the atoms repel each other, and the electromagnetic fields touch as they get closer. So the coffee has its effect because it has a shape. And the shape is the shape of the electromagnetic field of the molecules. And my shape detector can detect that through my tongue. I started to see these things. I started to look, and I wanted to make a system that would measure the body electric. I talked about this, how in 1985 I made my first system. I called it the Skio. Went to the FDA. They laughed at my 510K. They said I needed to make a 510K document. The first one was so bad. So I spent 300 hours going to FDA training on all different types of things to learn the law and to learn about the ideas. And Sterling, are you still there? Okay. So Sterling and I were
Yeah,
talking
I'm
about,
right here.
yeah.
I haven't left.
Well, Sterling and I were talking about this yesterday, and I wanted to reiterate for everybody, Sterling, that in the first FDA seminar I went to, the basic training, the man came out at first and he said, "There's ambiguity in all law," meaning that whatever it is that you're doing, there's somebody who could interpret it as a crime. There's somebody else who could say, no, it's not. Okay. This is why you go to court. If a policeman or somebody says you're guilty of a crime, that's not definitive. That's his opinion. You can then take your lawyer and you could take your opinion into court and you argue your opinions. There's ambiguity. So this is what they taught us about the FDA. Things are not clear cut and everything, and that they try to make the laws as best as possible. But they said that if an agent, if an FDA agent comes into your establishment and says something that he doesn't like, that's his opinion. It's not law. He can take his opinion to the FDA legal department. The FDA legal department can then write a challenge. They can give you an import alert. They can give you a warning. They can do other things. They could write you back. We don't like this. That's still not the law. That's their opinion. If you agree, if the company agrees and say, oh, yeah, we need to change that, okay, then you change it in what's called a corrective action. Okay. If you still disagree, then you can go to court where the judge could decide. The FDA came to us and told me, because I was saying that our device was capable of doing sport improvement. Our device is registered for neuromuscular re-education. There's many things that our device does, but one of them is neuromuscular re-education. That's inside our original 510K, what our device can do. A device could do reactivity, many other things, but our device can do neuromuscular re-education. And I said to her, because she said, no, that has nothing to do with sport. And I said, wait a minute. I said, in China, the Chinese word for sport is tu, and it means education of the muscles. Our device is for neuromuscular re-education. And sport is education of the muscles. And she said to me, what do muscles have to do with sport? Well, then I realized that her opinion was different than my opinion. So I said, I'm happy to go to court and take that to a judge and let a judge decide whether muscles have anything to do with sport. She also said she didn't like the word subtle energy. Well, subtle means that you can't really feel it. And I said, you can't really feel your brainwave. It's a subtle energy. How could you? So there again, when I came back, then all of a sudden they agreed. This is how it goes back and forth. The ultimate authority would be a judge if you went to a court, on these things. So sport. Let me talk about sport, how a lot of these things
Just
evolve.
short, when Desiree is done with the major information, I would like to do a share screen presentation of the new sport frequencies, showing the
Yeah,
electroceuticals a little
Rita's
bit.
been working with some sports people and et cetera, and she'd like to do a little presentation, which we will at the end.
If you would like that to see.
Oh, sure. Well, we could do it for recording. Other people will like it. Okay. So uh, I was working at developing our system. Bill Cunningham and I in New Mexico, we did a large group of testing with what's known as a pre-market test. We had to do close to 1,000 people. We did 935, and that was enough for the FDA to see that we could prove many different things about what our device does. Okay, and that was the basis. We did that back in 1983, long, long time ago. We got our registration in 1989, and we're working back and forth. And then it was sometime after that I got a call from AC Milan. This AC Milan man who worked for the head coach was Carlos Ancelotti, and they wanted to know about our system and how it worked on sport. Okay, they came in, and I remember Bruno was the man, and he came in and he sat down. He said, "If this system does 1/10 what you claim it can do, 1/10." He said, "Oh my God, you've revolutionized medicine." I said, "Well, I believe it does more than 1/10. I believe everything I say." So anyway, he spent a couple of days. They ended up buying three systems. They bought three systems to work, and they electrically hooked it up to the patients, etc. They were doing this electrical work. And when our machine runs energy through the quadrants, so our machine, which I happen to have here, we have the head harness. You see, we have the head harness. We have the wrist harnesses, and the wrist harness uh, and the ankle harness go, there. And we're able to then measure the quadrants. And we're going to be running electricity from the arm up to the head and from the arm to the leg. And we're going to be measuring the different quadrants. As we are measuring the electrical flow, we're going to be sending a current into these systems, these limbs, the extremities. We're sending a current in, and we know that if the tissue is healthy, how it comes out, how it goes in here and is measured, and we know that what healthy tissue looks like. Then we found out by measurement with our system, when the tissue is traumatized, wounded, and inflamed, there was a completely different pattern of electricity coming out. In other words, the reaction was completely different. If it was inflammation, it was high. If it was degenerative tissue, if there was cancer or degeneration or osteoarthritis and those type of things, degeneration, then it had a low energy. In other words, we could see where there was trauma, disease. We could see what ease of health flow was, and then what disease was. Well, then simple electronics, when we could see the pattern of the unhealthy tissue, we could apply a current, apply an electrical force that would help to sedate the inflammation or to improve, activate the degeneration. In other words, our system could fix the disease electrically. Remarkable. Energetic medicine. We were able to do this. In fact, we were able to do it at about 100th of a second because our machine was sending in a pulse and checking it, sending it in, checking it. This is the cybernetic link. The cybernetic link that the Mandelay systems have never had since they left me. Never had. And now we find out that QX World does not have. They don't have these processes anymore. Why? Well, time went by, and we're working on this, and it came down to the time that somebody called me up, 1996, and said, "Could I make electronic radionics?" Well, what's radionics? Radionics was a group of people where they had pendulums, they had rub pads, they had things.
Again, 5 minutes.
You have to mute these people.
Yeah, I will see you on a phone.
If they have a comment,
Do you would like to say
put it in
something,
the chat.
Joanna? Hello?
Don't let them interrupt me.
Okay.
Don't ask them if they have something to say.
Okay, you said they might
That's
have a
what the
comment.
chat thing is for.
Okay.
So we have this energy doing this, and I had built a system of quantum indeterminacy, quantum connectiveness, quantum entwinement, through what I called subspace. In other words, I could do distance reaction. If the machine did not detect anybody through the harness, then the machine would switch into a subspace mode. The subspace mode, in order to work, had to have an indeterminacy generator. And then it also had to get indeterminate reactions, right? The throwing the I Ching, the coins of the I Ching. And then it also had to have a prayer wheel to stabilize it, to not let negative energy in. A prayer wheel which would spin in the hard drive. So I put that into the system and I started working on it. They asked me to come to AC Electronic, not AC Electronic, AC Milan. Came to Milan, went to their workout place. I had dinner with Berscoloni. He owned the team at the time. He was the president of Europe at the time. He was the president of Italy, and he was the president of Europe. And I had dinner with him at his restaurant, right next to where the AC Milan football players worked out. And I worked during the day to teach them how to use the machine. And I stayed at the restaurant. There was a hotel above the restaurant. I stayed there at night. And I had dinner with the guy. It was very interesting. And he was fascinated by what we were doing, but he had so many other things to do, And we worked with the system. And what we found is that our system could find different problems and fix them. And they had a 91% drop in their injury rate. The injury rate is how long from the time the person is injured to how quick can they get them back on the field. They had established all this from the past, that when they got whatever injury it would take some injuries 3 days, some injuries 3 weeks, some injuries three months, or even 3 years to recover. They had this all graphed out. After a couple of months, they called me up and they said that with the help of our devices, their injury rate dropped 91%, and they could get their key players back on the field quicker at the end of an injury. Great. They asked me to come back to Milan. I came back and I was working with them. And then we were discussing the subspace system. And Bruno was a big believer in the force of the energy of the fans. He said there's this incredible mental energy of your fans, your group of people. He says if we could tap into this energy, this mental energy. And I was telling him about the quantum, system, etc. And he says, well, could I make a system? Somebody else's thought. Is that you, Sterling?
No.
Somebody else is making noise. Kimberly felt maybe. So could I make a system that would interface with the players on the field? Show me so I can see me. Could I make a system that would interface with the players on the field? And I said, well, I sure. I said, why not? Well, they had a great big party for who's the big Italian designer, begins with a B. Great.
Versace.
Versace. Yeah, how can I forget that? Thank you. So Versace had a great big party, and they were going to have me as one of the guests, the special guest. And I said, no, I couldn't go, and I sat and I worked on the system. I worked on the system. I designed it. I designed a subspace interface between my computer and the players so that while they're playing the game, I could, do this. AC Milan had a great big, match against Inter Milan. When they have the two teams from the same city, they call it, I can't remember. But anyway, great big giant match, and Inter Milan was the best at the time, and Inter Milan was highly favored. So I built it, and I came into the San Siro and sat down, and I could watch the players on my computer. And I remember their AC Milan's goalie was named Nelson, and I could see his energy, and I could see Clarence Seedorf, and I could see Neto, and I could see their energy as they're running around, and Kaka, and I could see that it was amazing. In real time, I could see this. It was absolutely amazing. And then I could treat them. And I would say, Neto's energy's gone up. And oh, he just got the ball, and I could see it. And it was amazing. I could see it. It really worked. I was the most amazed person in the world. I couldn't believe it. So at any rate, because of that, we started working on them. We started working on them every Sunday, wherever they were playing. I was working on them. And I remember one time there was they were winning with my help, etc., as I believe. And there was one time that I was unable to get to the computer. I was on the highway and I was going to my hotel, and I was supposed to arrive there at noon, but there was a holdup and everything. And I got there, and it was just 5 minutes left in the game. AC Milan was playing somebody, 5 minutes left in the game. I set up the computer real quick. I set it up. There was just 1 minute left, and I hit the warrior button for the player who was from Ukraine. Oh, jeez, I can't remember his name. Anyway, I hit the warrior button. Boom, he hit a goal, and AC Milan won 1-0. They won the game. And it was amazing how I was seeing this and seeing this action. They won the Italian, they won the Serie A in Italy. They won the European Championship that year. They won the Italian Series A next year, and they won the European again. They brought me into Milan several times, and one time I came, and all of the players stood up and gave me an applause. They said how they could feel me. They could feel my machine when they were playing. And they gave me an applause, and they said that I participated in them winning the championship. Very heartfelt. Came to year 3. I came to the San Siro. They invited me again because most of the time I was working on them from wherever. And I was there in the big stadium working on the players. Bruno sitting next to me. And we're working. One of Berscoloni's vice presidents came up to me. Came into the where we are. We were in this little suite looking out at the players. And he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, we have a machine and we're working on the players." And I thought everybody knew that I'd been doing this for a couple of years. Okay. He said, "What is this?" And I said, "Well, it's based on the ideas of." He said, "I don't see any wires." And I said, "No, there's no wires with this one. This is in a subspace. It's using a principle of quantum entwinement, which nobody knew about. Today, it's much more, everybody knows about it. It's been accepted today, but then it wasn't accepted at all." And he looked at me, and he had big gold, all around his Armani suit, everything was cool. So, and he looked down, and he said, "There's a player down there for us, Roy Costas. He's from Portugal. He's one of the most incredible players in the world, and he's never scored a goal for AC Milan. If this system works, get him to score a goal." I went, "What?" Well, okay. I had a warrior button for all the players. And I said, "Roy Costas, warrior button." Hit it. Look down the field. Boom, boom, boom. Goal. Roy Costas. In 10 seconds. I mean, it was, oh my God. Now, Bruno, who had been working with me, wasn't so surprised. They were surprised, but now the guy behind me, the vice president, uh, he had a chance to shake my hand and say, "Oh my God, this is fantastic what you're doing," etc. But he made a different choice. He actually made the sign of the cross, and he backed away and he called me a witch. And my contracts with AC Milan were terminated, and I didn't come back ever again. And the coach bought the machines, Ancelotti. Okay. He left AC Milan then. There was disturbances, whatever. I do not know of anything more than what I'm telling you. I can only surmise maybe there was something going on. If you look at who just won the last 2 years of the European Cup, Ancelotti, the coach who has my machines, follow what happened to him after he left AC Milan. The machines went with him. He just won the European Cup a couple of weeks ago. So, incredible technology. Got another phone call a couple of years later from the Chinese Olympic team. China had some very, very few athletes in any of the Olympics prior, just very, very few. Never really represented very well. And here comes along the 2008, and China had been picked to host the 2008 Olympics. Well, we got together and got our money together, and we sent two of our people with our machines, the skios, and we sent them to China to work for about a month before the Olympics and during the Olympics and getting people going. There were about 20 of there was a group of about 10 of the top players in the world from China who worked on our machine and got gold medals. They were already at the top of their field and got gold medals. There was another 50 of them that worked on our machine that they were rated 100 in the world, and they won medals, gold, silver, or bronze. And altogether, China won over 110 medals. And out of those, 65 of those medals were people who had been on our machine. It was earth-shattering. China gave me a gold medal. I was in the 68 Olympics as an alternate, but I hurt myself. I never got a chance to perform. And then 40 years later, I got a medal from China in the 2008. And we were always hearing back then, if you people who knew Penny, you remember, it was always every Olympics, there was always stories of athletes. Not now, not with QX World Mandalay. We just don't hear it. Why? Their systems don't work. How can you expect what they have in their system is they have the prayer wheel. Their electrical functions are not working. The electrical functions are not working in the QX. They're not using the trivector. Mandelay systems, they're not using the trivector. They're not using these things. It's too expensive for them to continue working. They terminated all of that. They're working on prayer wheels, and now they're not paying me for my trade secret and my copyright in the prayer wheel. How does anybody in this so-called spiritual world of what we do think you're going to get results from a stolen prayer wheel? What's wrong with you people? So great, fantastic results. Over the top results. So there was, at the time, I forgot to tell you another little story. At the time, when they terminated me at AC Milan, and I said, "What's going on?" And they said, "Well, yada, yada, yada." And there was all kinds of flack from other people, from doctors who did not understand the technology. So I said, "I'll tell you what, here comes the European Championship, for the countries, not for the clubs. AC Milan is a club, not the country. So now the next was the European Championship, which is starting again now. And it was going to be between Germany and Italy and all the different countries. So I said, so they made me an offer. They said, how about we pick a team, you run the team in subspace, you run that team in subspace, and we'll see what happens. I said, okay, but you can't pick Italy because Italy's there's too much invested. You pick a team. Pick a team, I'll run that team, and we'll see what happens. They picked the lowest team rated, 300 to 1. The odds were 300 to 1 that Greece would win. They picked Greece. Does anybody kind of remember from about 20 years ago? 300 to 1 Greece won the European Championship. I ran them at every event. What the fuck? What the fuck? The next year, a couple years after that, then there was going to be the European Championship in Germany. The Germans, they didn't contact me about the team. They contacted me about a different reason. There was incredible friction about hooligans, football hooligans from England. Penny will tell you about the hooligans from England. These hooligans were going to come to Germany and ravage the games and just do their craziness, etc. And they didn't know what to do. So they paid me 50,000 Deutschmarks. It was a lot of money. The Deutschmark at the time was, so this was about, I don't know, $40,000. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what the conversion was, but it was a good sum of money. And they paid me to make a protection on the game, a subspace protection on the games against hooligan activity. In fact, right now, the games are starting again in Germany in the next couple of weeks, and they've prohibited 2,000 English fans from coming. They stopped their passports because they're afraid. Well, here when they did it with me, they paid me this money. They didn't stop anybody. They didn't do anything. They just paid me to make a subspace protection of the games. I did. Not one hooligan activity happened the entire games. Not one incident. So along comes. So now let's go back into we went by China. We went all this until about 2010 when Novak Djokovic got involved. Novak Djokovic was sick and tired. He could not finish matches. He was given a warning by TV. They said, listen, because on 2 final matches on television, he withdrew during the second set because of asthma and sinus and breathing problems. And they said, well, we can't budget airtime and you can't even play the full game. They were worried about it. He didn't know. He thought his entire career was over. He was quitting matches. Igor came. We sat down. I made some special systems. We ran Novak, and we found out gluten sensitivity, number one. So we had to take him off gluten. There was also casein, which is in milk, so we had to take him off milk products. We did a bunch of other things, and I worked a specific system for him, just designed for him. I went to Monaco and worked on Novak, and all of a sudden, Novak started to play like crazy. And I think he's playing right now. Is he playing right now? I think he's playing right now. Did he win, or do you know anything, Mooney?
I haven't heard if he won or not yet.
I wonder if I have the TV on right here. Let's take a quick look here. And we'll just see, because there's the tennis thing here, if I can find it. I don't see it. Because I think he's playing in the Open now. Rita had the chance of working on him once during a match. We got word he needed help, and it was amazing. He was playing Federer in the finals. I think it was U.S. Open. I don't know. At any rate, Rita was working on him, and it was absolutely amazing. She could see how the warrior buttons and all this. I taught her how to do this with the team. Of course, this is the team, but just one Novak. And it was amazing. Federer had the match of his life. Federer did not lose one game. Federer won every game he played. But Novak beat him in tiebreakers. And
I
Novak,
remember that match perfectly.
yeah, and Novak won that game. And Rita would tell you, as she was working on him, you could feel the machine doing something as you. And I said, you can't hit the warrior button every 10 seconds. You wear the guy out. You have to judge just when it's time to hit that warrior button. You can't do that all the time, all the time, all the time. You can't do that. So it was very interesting. Christine's here. Howdy. So here comes Novak. Novak's working, and Novak is now still, after all this time, from 2011 till today, and he's number one. And now they say he's the greatest of all time. He's about to surpass Federer on all of what Federer was able to do. No, it's incredible. What I'm here to tell you now, and I'm going to be turning this over to Rita to do some demonstrations. I'll take your questions. This system of mine works, and the system works in the prayer wheel, and the system works in all this. You're not going to get results from the stolen prayer wheel, and you're not going to get results from people who don't really know what they're doing. Now, I have degrees in electronics. I have degrees in quantum physics, mathematics, homeopathy, naturopathy, psychology, medicine, law. I have the education, and I am able to put this together. And I don't take personal credit. God works through me. I allow God to work through me in the development of this technology. I'm just God's tool. He tells me what to do and processes how does his concept come into being, and I just help it to come into being. And I have to work on this, and I have done this, and from the start. And I sacrificed. I have trusted. I have done all of this to bring this to you, and I am the reason that this stuff works. And I am the one who knows every line of code, and I am the one that if you ever have a court case, I'm the only one who can go to court to really defend you, as I have done in many, many instances. I've defended doctors in many, many instances, helped them get their licensing back and everything. Way too many stories. QX World and Mandalay are both comes from Sterling's ex-babysitters. Sterling had babysitters who I gave chances to work in the office. Now they haven't gone to college. They don't have, and they haven't hired people who know quantum physics. I have had people who have talked to Mandelay and QX World about quantum physics and trivectors, voltammetry. And these people come back to me and said, they don't have a clue. Literally, they don't have a clue. And now they're guilty of crimes, and I'm going to have to take them down. I'm hoping that there would be some movement forward. I was hoping that I might have some news today that one of those people might come on and say, hey, let's talk, nothing. But I am here to tell you now we have a system that works. Here it is. I now have mandated corrective action software to help with for the people who have systems out there. We have software for you that does the trivector. We have software to do these things. I want to fix this industry. I really couldn't do this whistleblower thing until I had these things in place to be able to, number one, offer you a quality machine into the future, which Sterling could maybe talk about a little bit, to also give you corrective action software to fix the software that you've had in the past. But our new technology, our new machine is so far superior in so many different ways. And if you stay online for next week, when I come on next week, I will go through the increases in our device more definitely. I'm hoping that there will be some people from the Mandalay and QX World Camp who will join us as whistleblowers, or maybe there'll be some interaction, maybe there'll be some intelligent discussion. See all you folks next week again on Wednesday. If you want to talk, if anybody has any discussions, said, oh, doesn't know, blah, blah, tell them, hey, come on, talk. If you don't want to, the fact that they don't even want to come on and discuss this is proof of their guilt, proof of their shame, and proof that you need to leave QX World and Mandalay behind. There's something rotten in Hungary.